Welcome back to another dynamic conversation here at Truth and Transformation Ministries. I am Jahi, Mr. Communicator Muhammad, and we're honored to have you back. And we greet you with the greeting words of peace and paradise. We say it in different languages, in different ways. Peace, assalamu alaikum, shalom, namaste. We thank you for tuning in. Make sure you get your pens and pads because you're in for another treat this week as we have our discussion with the spiritual founder and director here at Truth and Transformation Ministries, Reverend Reginald Howard. Our theme for this month, this is the month of April, and our theme is understanding. Understanding. So make sure you get your pens and pad and also share this platform. If you're watching via YouTube, make sure you hit the like button and the share. If you're watching via Zoom, you can also make your comments. And if you're watching via Facebook, you can also hit the like button and share. Make sure all your friends and neighbors and those that you want to have similar experience, that they definitely are able to watch this platform and tune in. So, without any further delay, please welcome our spiritual director and founder of Truth and Transformation Ministries, Reverend Reginald Howard, PhD.
Good morning to you, Jahi, and good morning to our listening audience, viewing audience on all three platforms. I'm pleased to be here and pleased to again teach on this beautiful Sunday morning.
Oh, absolutely. We are definitely looking forward to it. You know, and the ministry has been in formation for how many years now? 17, 18 years?
Not quite that long.
How long has it
About
been?
15 years.
Okay, almost. That's quite a long time.
Yeah, it's been a
Quite
while.
a long time, and the information that's coming out of here has definitely been beneficial and is beneficial. So that's why we thank those who are new to Truth and Transformation Ministries for tuning in. You're in for a treat. Again, I can't stress this enough. Get your pens and your pads. You see, I'm ready. Got my pen and pads so that you can take notes. As I always say on this platform, you're going to hear Dr. Reginald Howard say some things, but also in your mind, you're going to hear another voice. So write down those thoughts that you have so at a later time you can go back and utilize the principles that are being shared here in order to enhance the situations that you are having. So let's get started. This month is understanding. That is the Christ principle that is being highlighted. Question I have for you, Reverend Reginald, is what is the relationship with Jesus and the Christ?
Jesus was a man who walked the earth and he possessed the Christ consciousness. And oftentimes those terms are used synonymously, Jesus and Christ, or Jesus Christ. But Jesus was a man who lived in northern Africa, who walked the earth, and he became the Christ. Christ means one who has elevated his or her awareness into union with God or into union with his or her higher self. And as you said, Jahi, this month we're focusing on spiritual understanding. So when we get into spiritual understanding, we're stepping into that part of us that's more expanded, more aware. Even the Bible tells us that you shouldn't, that if you knock, the door shall be open. So we have to knock on that doorway, which is our mind. Our minds are our connecting link to God. And what makes up the Christ presence within all of us, because this Christ presence is not outside of us, is faith, love, strength, understanding, wisdom, power, imagination, will, order, zeal, renunciation in life. Those attributes make up the total Christ presence within our being, but the key is to be aware that we have the God presence or the Christ presence within us. And spiritual understanding, again, gives us an expanded awareness such that we are able to step into a greater expanded self. So we have to begin now, and particularly now, this is a wonderful time now,
Yes,
because we're
yes.
stepping into self-mastery, that we have to step into a greater awareness and a greater understanding of our spiritual self. It's not really about religion so much as it is, do I know who I am spiritually?
Yes.
Even Jesus was not telling people to become Christian. He was telling them to step into who they are
Yes.
as a spiritual being.
Yes, yes, I'm glad you made that note, because for all the biblical scholars, you know, Jesus of the Bible never heard the word Christian.
Correct.
That term came about almost 100 years after his crucifixion.
Right, in Antioch.
At Antioch, right. So let me understand this. What you saying, because of these principles to grow into Christ, that we have the ability?
We have the ability to become the Christ. Now that is a little different concept, but it is not a new concept. That we have the ability to step into who we are as the highest spiritual beings that we can be. That we don't have to wait and get our glory on the other side. That right here, right now, is where we're supposed to be experiencing the highest form of ourselves. That's what Jesus did. He did all of his healing, all of his teaching. He became the Christ on earth. Everything that he did in terms of becoming who he was done right here. But in many instances, what we have been taught has been that we have to go to the other side in order to reach our full potential, to reach our full glory. And that was not really the message that he was saying. He said, Jesus said, these and greater things shall you do also. Next week is Resurrection Sunday. And it's really about the rising of the Christ consciousness within your own being, within your own soul. So right here, right now is where the work has to be done.
Yes, sir. So having said that, let's take a look at some of these Christ consciousness principles, so that the listening audience can begin to be familiar, and most of them we've heard, whether we have the understanding. Now we can take a deeper look. In addition to your pens and your pads, I encourage everyone to pull out a dictionary as well. As I say so often, I said in a recent broadcast, a lot of times we use words, and we're taught by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan to parse words. We think we know the definition of it. Let's look it up. It's like, oh, wow, that's what that means. And now we can get a better understanding of that particular terminology, and with a better understanding, we are able to apply it in our lives a little bit better, so that we can, as so many great spiritual teachers like yourself teach, we can begin to bring heaven now and not wait till we get to the other side. So you have on the first Christ consciousness principle, and you highlighted during the month of January, is faith.
Faith.
Yes.
Faith is more than belief. We've been taught that faith is just blind belief. But faith is knowing. And there's a difference between knowing God versus believing in God. Belief means that you just may have a theory about something, but when you step into the knowingness, you begin to understand and have a direct contact, divine knowingness. You step into the divine awareness of who and what God is in your soul. And also, we say here at Truth and Transformation Ministries that wherever I am, God is. That means that wherever you are, the Christ presence, the God presence shows up in its entire fullness. Again, I think I said last week that God itself cannot be separate from its creation.
Okay.
And this week I wanted to just talk a little bit about my book, The Transformative Thoughts to Soul's Sacred Shift. This book contains all of the 12 spiritual principles that we are discussing this morning, and so you can get a better understanding even through the examination of my book. But again, going back to faith, faith is a knowingness. Faith also has to be married to determination. There is no faith without determination. When you go forward with an idea or any project or anything that you want to do, you have to move forward with a knowingness, but your knowingness has to be married to determination. So one of my affirmations that I got from the late great Dr. Francis Wilson was, I am persistently determined. And that is one of the mantras that we should use throughout this situation that we're experiencing right now, is that I am persistently determined to move through this experience.
Yes, persistently determined.
Yes.
Faith is knowingness.
Correct.
Not just blindly wonder, but you know there's a direct connection to the God to let you know that whatever that thing is, I have without a shadow of a doubt that it's going to come about.
Right.
It's going to manifest. It's going to concretize.
And I want to emphasize this. The opposite of faith is fear.
Yes.
So this, you can imagine in your mind, you see on one end, there would be faith, and on the other end of the pole, it would be fear. And it's just a matter of what end of the pole that you are resonating on. Are you going to resonate
beautiful.
more in the knowingness of who you are as a spiritual being? Or are you going to resonate on the other side of the pole, which is fear, not knowing that you are in God and that God manifests itself as you?
Yes, sir. Beautiful. So, and the next Christ consciousness principle that's highlighted in the month of February is love. What is love?
Love is actually the oneness, knowing that you are one. Jesus said that the Father and I are one. And so there's only oneness in God. But if the awareness is not there, then you'll think that you are in one particular geographic location and that God is another. In fact, that's how we've been taught.
Yes.
And that's why it goes back to that first concept. That's why sometimes our faith gets shaken, because we don't know that we're tuned in and tied in to the oneness of God. See, we really have the best thing going for us.
Okay.
When we step into the knowingness of who we are, we step into the knowingness of who and what we are, we step into the oneness or the love of God. If Jesus said the Father and I are one, nothing is stopping you or I from proclaiming, I am one with the God presence that's within me.
Wonderful, wonderful. So it seems to me, and I'm looking at the order that you have, it's a very logical order. Faith, love. So with that faith, which is the knowingness and the oneness, that gives us strength.
Correct. And strength is simply the energy.
The energy,
The divine energy within your being, that's God. Really, God is the total energy of the whole universe.
Yes.
It's just not just thinking again of a man off in the sky. God is everything in the universe. Everything in the universe is God manifesting. The plants, the tree, everything is a manifestation of the energy of God. Now that's a little bit different too, but we have to work with our consciousness. And again, particularly in this moment in time, because I really believe that this is about self-mastery.
Yes, sir.
Stepping into who you really are as a spiritual being. So again, strength is the energy of God within your being. It's always there. You can affirm that wherever I am, the strength or the energy of God is.
And that would give me the power, and we'll talk about that in a few moments, but give me that what's needed in order to, again, we're talking about manifesting.
Correct.
And with the Christ consciousness, we're just not manifesting anything, we're manifesting that which the Creator would have
Correct.
put out into the atmosphere. Now, back to this month, the month of April, understanding. So we have faith, love, strength. That leads to understanding.
Understanding is our ability to comprehend all of the occurrences in our personal world and the larger environment. Now, many times we affirm, or people affirm, I don't understand. But there's a spiritual principle within you that says that you have the ability to understand. But first we have to come into the respect of ourselves. If I don't respect myself as a spiritual being, then I will create misunderstanding,
Okay.
or I will not have an expanded understanding. So I have to step into who I am as a spiritual being, and also tell myself that I have the ability to comprehend myself and the world around me. We have to stop affirming, I don't understand.
Right.
What does the Bible say? Knock, and the door shall be open. Seek, and ye shall find. So we have the ability to step into a greater awareness and understand, comprehend everything around us. But again, the key thing is, I have to respect myself.
I love that.
In order to step into an expanded awareness or understanding.
That's a very key term, brothers and sisters. Respect. The etymology of respect is to look at again. So as you keep reiterating, that's an excellent teaching point. To look at myself, look at yourself again. Not necessarily in those lenses that were given to us, that's not conducive to our development and our growth into Christ consciousness. So now you're getting new information, or maybe you've heard it before, but now you're looking at it differently.
Correct.
Respect, love that. So understanding. Now our understanding and us seeking and us asking, and we're implementing it, it leads to wisdom.
And so actually, wisdom is the application of spiritual understanding. So once I have comprehended what I need to know, then I begin to apply it, and then I begin to grow in wisdom. It was just like I shared with the viewing audience last week, that in order to become more healthy, I had to step into the awareness, I've got to drink more water.
Okay.
See, it's very practical teachings that I have to do certain things in order to manifest my wisdom. So again, understanding steps into wisdom by applying it. You begin to manifest your wisdom through the application of spiritual understanding.
What you understand. Beautiful. And so with the faith, with the love, with strength, leads to understanding and wisdom, that gives us
power. And power, when we begin to harness our strength or the energy of God within us, we step into our power. Power is the energy of God that's exerted or becomes manifested. When I act on my strength, then I'm utilizing my power. And I want to say this as well, that in God, you can only be empowered. Now, in many religious settings, spiritual settings, we have been taught to be disempowered by God. But when you know who and what you are in God, you begin to become more empowered. It's just like the word says that I can do all things through God or through Christ, which strengthens me. See, there's no such thing as I can't do in God.
Right.
You can do all things. You just have to what? Have faith.
Have the faith.
Move forward knowing who you are.
And I think a word that in that particular phrase that you mentioned, and as you said it, it struck me. The part that we miss is all.
Correct.
I can do all things through Christ. All things, not some things, not a majority of the things, but all.
And that's a very good point, because when we think about the Christ Christ is a determined mindset.
Determined, I love that.
It is a
Determined
determined mindset.
Yes.
When you step into the divine awareness that's within you, that divine awareness is determined to get done what it needs to get done. So,
Yes.
but we have to understand and know that that awareness is within us. That spiritual presence, that guidance is always there, and is there as a resource. Now, this God presence doesn't wrestle you down to the floor and say, accept me, although man may do that, but you don't have to. Through the God presence, it just talks to you peacefully, and it allows you to step on into it. And so we have to begin to understand and become aware of who and what we are in God at all times, in all places, all conditions. I don't care what your problem is. The solution is always God.
Yes.
The solution is always God. If you begin to turn to your spiritual foundation first, become calm. Even the word says, be still.
Be still and know.
And know that I am God.
Yes.
Going back to faith, be still and know. Step into the knowingness, the divine knowingness that's there.
Definitely. You talked about solving problems. Immediately I thought about a quote or saying that's attributed to the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, that for every problem there is a solution.
Correct.
If there is no solution, then there's not a problem. Right, right. So, back to being still, being calm. And as you said, our current situation with the whole planet being on lockdown practically from this COVID-19, which is an interesting term in itself, or coronavirus, whatever the terminology they give, but it's giving all of us, everybody, an opportunity to just be still.
Be still.
And in that stillness, getting into direct connection with the God within, as you say, so that when we come out on the other side of this, we become masters.
And even more empowered.
More empowered. Now the next principle, which is very interesting because I rarely see this connected to a spiritual connection. Imagination. Now please expound upon that.
The imagination is the eye of the consciousness. It's the eye of your awareness. And so, and many times, when we begin to become afraid, we begin to get a mental picture of what's going to happen, how it's going to look, and we very rarely use our power of imagination to visualize what it is that we are seeking. So we have to begin to take the eye away from fear, which is feeling separate and apart from God, and putting it on the eye of oneness and begin to visualize goodness in our mind, world, and affairs. It's just like this broadcast. We had to move from a situation where we couldn't have regular Sunday service.
Right.
My mind could have gotten consumed with fear, but I had to visualize through my imagination how to do something that would be just as constructive.
That's right.
See, the God presence is always there, working with us, giving us solutions, helping us to see a better picture. And also, imagination has to do with being able to see oneself. Seeing the self perfect, whole, and complete. This is a wonderful time to begin to see your body as perfect and whole and healthy. This is a wonderful time. Instead of focusing on sickness.
Right.
It's just like what you said about the pandemic with the coronavirus. They're giving you the death toll of how many people have died and that kind of thing, but they're not giving you the numbers of people who have survived.
Who have survived. Over 97% of those that have contracted the virus have overcome the virus.
But through proper spiritual understanding and using your power of imagination, this is a wonderful time for us to begin to see ourselves healthy, well, and whole.
Absolutely. The imagination, fantastic. Now, the next one is one of my favorites. The will. I 23 years ago, myself and some partners, we developed this presentation called the 9 Malignant Symptoms of Unpropitious Will. I know y'all don't know what that means, but it's dealing with the will. The will is so powerful. So what's the Christ consciousness principle behind the will?
Well, will is simply my ability and your ability to say yes to the God of our being. So if,
wow,
if
I like that. Say yes. Okay.
So if the God of your being, as I said earlier, says drink more water, you need to drink more water. It becomes just as simple as that. If the God of your being wills you to start a business, then you should move forward in terms of starting a business, saying yes. But many times what happens with our will is that we don't accept the divine will. We say no. And how do we do it? And many times we'll say no because I don't have enough money, or I don't have enough education, or something that will block us from saying yes to God. So either we're willing toward God, or we have our own human will
Yes.
to go. So when we go take our own human will and impose it and put it in there, then we create a lot of havoc for
That's
ourselves,
right.
a lot of trouble, a lot of misfortune, which spills off into manifesting hell in our experience.
Right.
And hell is not a place, it's just basically an unhappy, unnatural state of mind.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I hope that the listening audience are seeing the connections between the Christ consciousness principle. They all play a part with each other. Back to what you're saying about us and the God. There's no separation.
Correct.
We're one. And these principles all act together. The will and faith. I remember years ago hearing a lecture by Minister Farrakhan called Faith, the Power Behind the Will.
Mm-hmm.
Faith. And as you taught us earlier, faith is knowingness, determination. So brothers and sisters, we want you to get that idea. Now I want you to write in the comment sections, whichever platform you're watching, whether you're watching us via Zoom, YouTube, or Facebook, in the comment section, let us know how you have applied these principles. And we've done this in the past.
Mm-hmm.
We may not have known what we were consciously what we were doing, but each and every one of us brought something into fruition that was part of our imagination that we really wanted to do. We acted on these principles. Now, what you're teaching here at Truth and Transformation is that we're more conscious.
We must become more
and deliberate
more
about it.
conscious, more aware. Consciousness simply means awareness.
Aware.
And this has been, just like what you said, that the Christ presence, or the divine presence, the God presence, has been within us.
Mm-hmm.
But we have not always had the awareness. We've been taught something else, that I'm in one geographical location and that God is in another, somewhere else in another geographical location. When you really think about it, how can God be separate from his own creation? It's just like, again, just like my book that I wrote, that I can't be separate and apart from the material that I developed.
Right.
So,
yes, excellent point.
Mhm.
Excellent point. My month, September, order.
Order means I'm just putting God first in
Ah,
my mind,
okay,
world, and
okay.
affairs. God goes what? First. And the scripture says the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. And we know in truth that Lord means law. And law also reflects back on these 12 spiritual principles, because it's the orderly working out of the principles of being, and these are principles of being. So I'm in accordance with the Lord when I'm in accordance with divine law. See, I have to be in accordance with it. And so that means, again, going back to order, that means that God goes first. When I'm planning and making my budget, I'm allowing the divine spirit within me to order my financial affairs.
Mm-hmm.
When I move forward and say that my body is the temple of the Holy Spirit, that means that I'm allowing God to be first as it relates to my health. How am I eating? What am I eating? What am I
Absolutely.
consuming?
Right.
See, because I'm out of order if I'm
Right.
sick.
Right.
So we have to begin to understand that we have this awareness to align ourselves to the ordered part of our being.
Wonderful, wonderful. And this is another one that is interesting to me as being a part of the Christ consciousness principle, and that is zeal. What is zeal?
Zeal is simply that divine spark, that enthusiasm
Okay.
of the spirit that lives within you. So as I begin to become more consciously aware, I begin to connect to my passion. It's just like Moses when he saw the burning bush. Now I say that this is all allegory.
Right, right.
But the burning bush represented Moses' burning desire
Yes.
to go forward to complete his mission.
Yes.
So we all have that burning desire within us. Now some of us may not be aware of what our mission or divine calling is, but there's still yet that divine spark within us. And when Moses became aware of it, his whole being lit up. He was really talking about the chakras within his system were opening. That's what it was about. Even Ezekiel, seeing the wheel within the wheel.
Right.
That was him seeing his innermost self projected outwardly in terms of what he saw. But that was really about the opening of the chakras. They said he saw a rainbow. That rainbow was the opening of of his innermost being.
All right, zeal. You mentioned enthusiasm. That's what zeal is, and the root of enthusiasm in theos, God within. So again, brothers and sisters, do you see how all of these Christ consciousness principles are connecting with and tying in to each other? Renunciation?
Renunciation. That
Okay.
simply means that I have the ability to release that which I don't need anymore. If I don't have a need for it, I am empowered to put it aside, and that is also associated with our spiritual luminary that month for November, associated with renunciation, is Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman released the plantation. She was empowered enough to say, this idea of slavery, it doesn't serve me. So I'm going to leave. I'm not going to ask anybody's permission. I'm empowered to release those ideas, conditions, and situations that do not serve me. So we have the ability to do what we need to do, accept those things that serve us, and release those things that no longer serve any constructive purpose.
Right. And that goes back to power.
Right.
Once you understand that I have the power to release,
Right.
to let go of that condition.
Because sometimes holding on makes us weaker. That's why we have to have these two spiritual principles, understanding and wisdom, working together, so that if my innermost self says that you need to release something, I can step into my wisdom by releasing it.
On that point, before we move on to the last one, renunciation, you say holding on can make us weaker. In your experience and viewpoint, why do we hold on to things or an idea or something that we know is not helping us to move forward? What I'm thinking is because it gets comfortable. Sometimes we can get comfortable with pain.
Right. Pain becomes familiar.
It becomes familiar. And to move on, that means I have to learn something new, embrace something new. But this I know, so I just deal with it like it is. But it's not helping us to grow.
Correct.
What kind of strategies do you recommend for us to get over that mental block?
Well, first of all, go back to your spiritual foundation, which is that you are one with the presence of God at all times, and through this God presence, you have the ability to be empowered. See, you don't have to. In God, there is no fear.
Right.
And the Bible tells you, perfect love casts out all fear.
Yes.
So when we have to embrace something new, we have to affirm and know that while my human self may experience some fear, my God self is not afraid.
Mm-hmm.
And so you begin to go forward with that knowingness. It's just like years ago when I first began public speaking, and I used to affirm, I'm nervous.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to begin to later affirm, my voice is the voice of God.
Okay.
And God speaks through me.
Yes, sir.
See, so we have to begin to take our awareness off of those things, as I said earlier about renunciation, begin to take our awareness and nervousness is not going to serve me very well.
Mm-hmm.
If I got to get up and do public speaking.
Right.
So you have to begin to affirm my spiritual self is strong and is not afraid.
Right. And then you move out.
And then you move
go
out.
and do.
Mhm.
So the 12th Christ consciousness principle is life.
Life. In God, there's only life. And this is that all permeating principle that moves forward that says that wherever you are, God is, that life is everywhere. But many times, because we don't understand it and don't know it, we see doom, destruction, and death. And next week, when I give my spiritual lesson, we're going to talk about the resurrection, the life.
Mm-hmm.
Because really that Jesus' resurrection was an allegory, really telling you and I that there is no death, that there's only life. They say he resurrected out of the tomb. There is an allegory saying that you can come out of the tombs within your own consciousness.
All right.
And many of us
make note of that next week.
Many of us have many tombs
yes.
that we have built within our consciousness that we haven't been able to resurrect ourselves from. So the rising of Jesus to Christ is really talking about the rising of the Christ consciousness within you. That's what we're going to talk about next week. That we're going to be stepping into taking it off of Jesus, because he's done his thing, and we're going to put it on ourselves and ask ourselves the question, are you rising in your divine awareness? Are you rising in the knowingness of who you are as a spiritual being?
Right, because are not we the body of Christ?
Yes, we're the body of Christ.
So,
we are one with the
So as he did, then we should do
also.
Absolutely fantastic. So we already got our assignment, and we know we're looking forward to next Sunday. So an affirmation to help us carry through for these next few days.
The affirmation that we should use for the next few days is, I am perfect, whole, and complete.
I am perfect.
I am perfect, whole, and complete. And we might round it off with, all is well in my world. It doesn't matter what the outer environment looks like, because the outer environment has to mirror, and we all have to take steps, each one of us as the human family, if we want to shift the circumstances that we're personally going through. We're all going to have to take steps to realize and to know that I am perfect, whole, and complete, and I am projecting this idea of myself onto the earth plane.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to anchor it.
Fantastic. So you all got that. We all have that. I am perfect, whole, and complete, and all is well in my world. Can't wait for next week. So we look forward to seeing you all back. Also, thank you all so much, brothers and sisters, for your contribution to Truth and Transformation Ministries, especially during this time period or this paradigm that we're in. So we need your continued financial contributions. You can have several ways that you can do it. One is you can go to the website, which is Truth and Transform, TruthAndTransform.org. Truth and Transform and just click on the donation button. We really thank you for that. Or you can go to Cash App. The Cash App address is $transformation. $transformation 1971. $transformation 1971. Thank you all so much, and please make your comments in the respective boxes or whatever platform you're watching, whether you're watching us on the Facebook channel, the YouTube channel, or via Zoom. And someone from the ministry staff here at Truth and Transformation Ministries will contact you immediately. Again, we look forward to seeing you next week, same time, same channel, and please help spread the word about the dynamic teachings here at Truth and Transformation Ministries. I am Jaheed, Mr. Communicator Muhammad, and we look forward to seeing you. Peace and paradise.